Hey folks, VermiBag composting systems. Today I want to talk to you quickly about K-cups. These things are becoming immensely popular. Even myself, I kind of like it. It's a very convenient way of getting 1 cup of coffee. At work we have a ton of these now. But the thing I hate about them is every time you use one of these, it punches a small hole in the top and a hole in the bottom, and then they throw this whole thing away. I mean, we're filling up our landfill with this plastic. It's going to take forever for this coffee to decompose. There's a tiny little hole that gets inside there. Nothing can get inside. So what I do now for my brewing, I use these recyclable ones, refillable ones. You can buy them on Amazon really cheap. Fill them up, pop them in, and just dump the coffee grounds out when you're done. They work really well, and you're not adding all that plastic into our landfills. So, since I have so many of these at work, I am constantly grabbing everything we get at work. I take them home and I recycle them, at least the best I can. So, it's real simple to do. Your worms are going to love it. Just get yourself a sharp knife, a pretty sharp knife. Don't want to cut yourself, but something you don't mind dulling up because you're going through foil on here, so this knife's going to get dull eventually. Then all I do is have my container, and I just run this along the inside edge of this foil, and then I just take the knife and scrape out most of the coffee grounds out of it. And you can see there now it's pretty much empty. This is a really quick process. It only takes a couple minutes. You don't have to worry about getting all of the coffee, and you don't worry about if you'll get a chunk of foil every once in a while, a little tiny little piece inside your coffee grounds, but it's not going to hurt anything, and it'll eventually make its way into the compost, make its way into the garden, and it'll decompose. So if you have these at work, or if you have them at home, rather than throwing them away, I mean, again, that's absolute total waste to throw this much plastic into the landfills. For every single solitary cup of coffee you make, you're basically throwing a cup, I mean a whole plastic cup, like a quarter of a water bottle, in the garbage. That's probably going to end up floating in the ocean and doing something. So, at least by taking the coffee out of it, I'm doing some good. But more importantly, if people will switch to these recyclable ones, we wouldn't have that issue with all this leftover plastic. And that's it, folks. I have a big pile of coffee grounds here. Now I'm going to take this, and anybody that's watched my videos on my bedding, I always add this stuff to my bedding. I basically supercharge my bedding all the time that I have sitting out here. And again, it sits outside for several months sometimes in these buckets. I move them around, rotate them up, make sure they're wet. But I'm continuously throwing coffee grounds and sometimes additional paper if they're pretty wet. And I'll show you, I'll adjust the camera here, and I'll dump this into one of the bins and just show you how I mix it up. Okay, folks, this is a Rubbermaid tote. It must be a 25 gallon or something. It's one of the bigger Rubbermaid totes. Anyway, it's pretty much full of bedding. And again, if anybody's watched my videos on making bedding, I have a lot of paper, shredded cardboard, shredded newspaper, coconut core, probably a couple pound or about a pound of coconut core, pound and a half coconut core, mix it up. And for nitrogen, I add a little bit of alfalfa meal, and then I throw a little bit of oyster dust in here too. So this big one for a while. All I do, I take the coffee grounds, put them in there, and just mix them into the top surface of this area. And this is pretty wet. I mean, it won't stick together, but it's nice and moist. But I'll periodically come out here and actually add a little bit of moisture to this because I want this to run wet. And the bedding that I put into my bins is really damp. I mean, it's definitely wet sponge or a little bit more. So I occasionally have to add a little bit more just shredded paper into my bins to keep them from getting too wet. But I'm going to do a video a little bit later on and actually just add some of this into the worm bin. I want to show you how much the worms will attack just this bedding. There'll be nothing there, and if I put an inch of this on top of my bedding, this thing will just be completely loaded with worms the next day. So That's it from VermiBag Tutorials. I hope you guys will start recycling these K-Cups. Get on Amazon, buy one of these little reusable K-Cups versus throwing all that plastic into our landfill. And if you have K-Cups at work, bring them home. Feed them to your worms. They're going to love it. So, from VermiBag Composting Systems, till next time, ciao.